The sky wasn't black. It was a bruised, sickly purple, a color that promised violence. Captain Elias Thorne stood on the bridge of the SS Boreas, his hands locked onto the cold steel rail, so tight his knuckles turned bone white. Outside, the Atlantic Ocean had ceased to be water. It was a shifting, heaving mountain range of liquid lead, each peak and valley a threat. The ship, his ship, felt impossibly small. "Pressure is still dropping, Captain." The voice belonged to Sarah, our lead oceanographer. She had to shout to be heard over the rhythmic, pounding thrum of the engines. "We're looking at a central pressure of 890 mil. This isn't just a storm. It's a hole in the atmosphere." The Boreas was a $200 million marvel of modern engineering, a floating laboratory designed to probe the deepest secrets of the Puerto Rico Trench. But as the so-called storm of the century decided to make our exact coordinates its personal playground. All that technology felt like a child's toy in a bathtub. And then it happened. A massive jolt rocked the entire vessel. But it wasn't from the sky. It came from below. This wasn't the familiar slap of a wave against the hull. This was a heavy, deliberate, rhythmic impact. A knock on our door from something in the deep. "Sonar. Report," I barked, my voice tight. The young technician, Miller, was staring at his screen, and all the color was draining from his face as if being pulled down into the abyss itself. "Sir," he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The sonar picked up a thermal bloom, 2,000 feet down. Something just rose out of the trench. It's moving fast. And it's huge. I leaned in, my heart starting to pound in time with the impacts. "How huge?" Miller. He finally tore his eyes from the screen and looked at me. What I saw in them was a primal, ancient fear. The kind of fear our distant ancestors must have felt in the dark. "Bigger than the ship, sir." The first casualty wasn't a person. It was our ability to run. The starboard propeller, our main source of propulsion, suddenly screamed. It was a sound of grinding, tortured metal that echoed through the entire hull, like a chorus of 1,000 screaming ghosts. A massive, slick appendage, something covered in jagged, obsidian-like scales, had wrapped itself around the shaft and blades. In the engine room, the lights flickered once, twice, and then died. Emergency red strobes ignited, bathing the narrow hallways in the color of blood. The intercom crackled to life, the chief engineer's voice frantic and distorted. "We're dead in the water. Starboard prop is gone." I grabbed a heavy-duty flashlight from its cradle. "Sarah, get the crew to the internal deck. Secure them. Miller, I want eyes on that." What? "Keep that sonar active." I moved to the reinforced plexiglass window of the bridge, my light cutting a shaky beam into the maelstrom. A flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating the sea for a single, terrifying fraction of a second. A dorsal fin, jagged and scarred, sliced through a 50-foot swell. But it wasn't a shark, and beneath the surface, a shadow stretched for 60, 70, 80 feet, and kept going. It was the apex. A predator that had supposedly survived the extinction of the dinosaurs by retreating into the crushing pressures of the deep trenches, bringing the cold, oxygen-rich water of the depths to the surface. And the predator had followed its ancient food source. It had followed the feast. The Boreas groaned in protest as the creature slammed into the hole again. This wasn't just mindless biting. It was methodical. It was testing the ship, searching for weaknesses. It was intelligent. "It's using the storm as cover," she whispered, her voice filled with a terrible awe. "It knows we can't see, and it knows we can't run." As if summoned by her words, the massive window of the main observation deck, 3 levels below us, shattered. A massive, clawed limb, something out of a nightmare, crashed through the reinforced pane. It looked like some unholy cross between a great white shark and a prehistoric reptile. Its skin was pale, almost white, just milky orbs that likely sensed the electrical impulses of its prey. And heat? More. It was filled with rows upon rows of needle-like teeth. "Move. Now." I screamed into my radio, the command echoing my own frantic thoughts. The few crew members on that level scrambled for safety as the predators had breached the deck. It let out a sound that wasn't a roar. This was something you felt. It was a low-frequency vibration that rattled the bones in my chest, a deep hum that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the ocean. It was the sound of the deep claiming its due. With the engines dead and the ship taking on water, listing badly to one side, I knew we had one chance. One desperate, insane, long shot. The Boreas carried a highly pressurized lithium-ion battery core. It was the power source for our deep-sea drones, a concentrated brick of chemical and electrical energy. If we could lure the creature to the aft deck and puncture that core, the resulting chemical explosion and massive electrical discharge might be enough to kill it. "I'll do it," Sarah said, her voice firm. She grabbed a flare gun from the emergency locker. I looked at her, had the fire in her eyes, and shook my head. We'd do it together. We sprinted through the flooded, tilting corridors. The ship's emergency lights cast long, dancing shadows that played tricks on the eyes. Behind us, we could hear it. The predator was moving through the ship. It was dragging its massive body through the main corridors, the sound of its obsidian scales on metal like sandpaper on a coffin lid. We burst onto the aft deck and were hit by a physical wall of wind. The storm was screaming at over 160 miles per hour. Rain and sea spray felt like needles on our skin. In the churning darkness, lit only by the sporadic flashes of lightning, the creature rose from the water. It was a god of destruction, a silhouette of pure terror against the violent sky. With all my strength, I kicked the heavy battery core out into the open space of the deck. "Hey," I screamed, my voice torn away by the wind. It worked. The predator turned, its head tilted, and I could almost feel it sensing the target. Its nostrils flared, tasting the air, sensing the unique electrical heartbeat of the battery. It was an irresistible lure. It lunged, its massive jaws opening wide enough to swallow a car, a black cavern of death rushing towards us. She didn't hesitate. The phosphorus bolt hissed through the rain, a tiny red star on a collision course with destiny. It struck the lithium core at the exact moment the predator's jaws clamped down. A blinding, silent, white light consumed the world. A sound that was both chemical and celestial. A blast that shook the very foundations of the ocean, slamming us hard into the safety netting at the edge. When I finally managed to open my eyes, my ears ringing, the creature was gone. A massive trail of glowing, bioluminescent blood drifted away into the dark, churning waves, defeated not by brute strength, but by the very technology it had sought to consume. The wind died down from a scream to a mournful sigh. A single sliver of moonlight pierced through the bruised clouds, reflecting off the now calm surface of the water. We were adrift, battered, broken, but we were alive. I pulled myself up, my body aching, and looked out at the horizon. The fight was over, for now, waiting in the dark, silent depths for the next storm to rise. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tailies from the deep. Until next time, stay safe out there.